There's a very specific kind of heartbreak that doesn't look dramatic from the outside. No breakup, no big fight, no dramatic speech. Just this. One day you wake up and realize someone who used to light up when they saw you barely reacts anymore. Your messages get shorter. Your calls go unanswered. Your presence feels optional. And you start to wonder, what did I do wrong? Did I change? Did they change? Should I try harder? Should I prove my worth? So you give more. You become more available, more understanding, more patient. You answer immediately. You rearrange your schedule. You lower your standards. And somehow, they value you even less. If that feels painfully familiar, this video is for you. Because today we're going to talk about what to do when someone stops valuing you. Not from a place of revenge, not from a place of games, but from a place of self-respect and psychology. We'll talk about why trying harder almost always backfires, the quiet shift that makes people suddenly feel your absence, how to step back without becoming cold or fake, and how this whole situation, as painful as it is, can actually be the beginning of a much stronger self-esteem. So if there's someone in your mind right now who feels distant, stay with me. This might be the exact moment you stop begging for crumbs and start owning your seat at the table. Let's start with something honest. People don't usually stop valuing you overnight. There isn't always a clear day called "this is the day they changed." Most of the time, it happens slowly. They reply a little later. They stop asking how you're really doing. You're always the one suggesting plans. You start to feel like you're too much when you ask for basic consideration. And because it's gradual, you doubt your own perception. Maybe I'm overthinking. They're just busy. I shouldn't be so sensitive. So instead of adjusting how much access they have to you, you adjust your expectations downward. You start accepting less. And here's a hard truth. Every time you accept less than you deserve, you teach people what is acceptable with you. Not because you're weak, not because you like suffering, but because you're afraid. Afraid of losing them, afraid of being alone, afraid of being dramatic. So you try the most common strategy. You give more. You think, if I'm more available, more understanding, more supportive, they will see my value again. But psychology and experience show something different. Very often, the more you overgive, the more invisible you become. Why? Because what is always available soon becomes background noise. Not intentionally, not because they're evil, but because human beings are wired to take for granted what never seems to go away. So how do you break that? With a move that feels completely counterintuitive. When someone stops valuing you, your instinct screams, lean in, fix it, explain, prove yourself. But the move that actually shifts the dynamic is the opposite. You stop leaning in. You step back. Now, let's be clear, stepping back is not ghosting out of anger, giving the silent treatment as punishment, posting quotes on social media, hoping they'll get the message. Stepping back is something else. It's a conscious choice to stop over-functioning in the relationship, stop chasing attention and validation, redirect your energy from them back to you. Think of a scale. Right now, if you're the one watching this, chances are the emotional weight looks like this. On your side, worry, effort, overthinking, giving. On their side, comfort, convenience, minimal effort. When you step back, you're not tipping the scale to punish them. You're simply removing your extra weight from a system that was draining you. And what happens when you remove that extra weight? Two things. One, the dynamic is no longer comfortable for them. Your constant availability disappears. Your instant replies slow down. Your yes to everything turns into a thoughtful, sometimes no. Two, for the first time in a long time, you have space, mentally, emotionally, practically, to pay attention to yourself. That space is where everything changes. Let's talk about the psychology here, because this is important. Human beings have a strange habit. We underestimate what is always there and overestimate what might be lost. When you are constantly available, saying yes, fixing plans, filling silences, picking up pieces, people's nervous systems learn they'll always be there. Not as a conscious thought. Most people would deny it if you asked, but as a felt reality. There is no cost to neglecting you a little. But when you step back, calmly and consistently, something shifts. Your messages are less frequent. You don't jump to solve every crisis. You are no longer the default option for their emotional dumping. Suddenly, your presence is not background noise anymore. It's something they notice. The absence of your daily good morning, your follow-up question, your eager enthusiasm leaves a small but clear gap. And gaps get noticed. This is not manipulation. You're not pretending to be busy or manufacturing distance. You're simply letting reality show. This is how it feels when I'm not constantly carrying more than my share. Some people, when they feel that gap, wake up. They realize, wow, I was taking them for granted. I miss them more than I thought. I need to show up differently. Others don't. They fade. They move on. They reveal how little they were willing to invest. And as painful as that is, this revelation is gold. Because now you're not guessing. You're not begging. You're not chasing. You're seeing the truth. And once you see the truth, you can finally make decisions that protect your self-worth. Now, a very important point. Stepping back is powerful, but only if you do it for the right reason. If you're stepping back to make them jealous, punish them, see if they will chase you, you might fall into another trap. You'll still be obsessed with their reaction. You'll watch your phone. You'll create drama in your own head. You'll make their response the center of your emotional world. That is not self-respect. That is strategy based on fear. Real stepping back sounds more like this. I am noticing that I am doing too much. I am noticing that I feel devalued. I am going to pull my energy back and give it to myself, whether or not they ever change. It looks like taking longer to respond, not as a tactic, but because you're actually doing other things. Saying, I'm not available that day, without a 10-line explanation. Not initiating conversations every time, and allowing silence without immediately filling it. Stopping the constant emotional labor of checking in, fixing, reminding, chasing. Here's a simple check. If in your mind you're thinking, I'll do this so they feel X, so they react Y, so they finally realize Z, you're still performing for them. But if you're thinking, I want to feel more like myself again, I want my time and energy back, I want to see clearly who is really here, then you're finally doing this for you. And that is where things truly transform. Let's be honest. When someone stops valuing you, one of the most exhausting parts is not just what they do. It's what happens inside your head. You replay conversations. You stalk their online status. You analyze every emoji, every dot, every delay. You create entire stories about what they must be thinking. That mental energy is enormous. So when you step back, you're not just changing behavior. You're also reclaiming a huge amount of mental bandwidth. What do you do with it? This is where self-esteem is either built or destroyed. A lot of people make this mistake. They step back from one person and instantly look for another person to fill the empty space. New crush, new friend, new distraction. But if every time someone devalues you, you just swap them out without ever looking inward, you'll repeat the same story with different faces. Instead, use this gap to turn your attention to something you may have neglected, your own life. Ask yourself, what did I stop doing because I was so focused on them? What hobbies, routines, passions did I abandon? What version of me existed before I started shrinking for this relationship? Then start small. Go back to a hobby or interest that is only yours, not something they introduced you to. Move your body. Walk, exercise, dance. Not to look better for them, but to feel alive again for you. Learn something that excites you. A course, a book, a skill. Spend time with people who light you up, not drain you. As your life fills with your own presence again, something subtle but powerful happens. You become less hooked on how much one specific person values you. Your worth feels less negotiable, less dependent, less fragile. And ironically, that's when people often start to notice you more. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because confidence and self-respect change how you occupy space. People are drawn to those who are at home in themselves. And you can't fake that. You build it. Let's talk about boundaries. When someone stops valuing you, it's often because they have crossed a line. Maybe they cancel on you last minute repeatedly, only message when they need something, never ask how you're really doing, flirt with you only when it's convenient, or give you crumbs while you give them the whole cake. Part of stepping back is not just disappearing, it's communicating through your actions. I see where the line is now, and I am choosing not to stand on the wrong side of it. Boundaries don't have to be aggressive. They can sound like, I'm not available last minute anymore. I can't always be the one to fix this. I don't feel good when I'm treated like an option. If this continues, I'm going to need some space. But the real power of boundaries is not in what you say. It's in what you do after you've said it. If you say, "I won't tolerate that," and then tolerate it 10 more times, your nervous system learns, "My own words are empty." But if you say, "I won't tolerate that," and then follow through with less contact, less access, less availability, you teach yourself in them, "I am serious about how I want to be treated." Here's the beautiful part. Healthy people will respond to your boundaries with respect, adjustment, or at least an honest conversation. People who only enjoyed you when you had no boundaries will respond with guilt trips, minimization, anger, distance. As painful as that is, their reaction is data. It shows you who is capable of truly valuing you and who only values your compliance. You might not like the answers you see, but they will set you free. Once you've stepped back, refocused on yourself, and set clear internal boundaries, one of two things usually happens. Outcome one, they step up, they start to notice. They send longer messages. They ask where you've been. They initiate plans. They show more respect, effort, presence. Sometimes they'll even say, "I feel like I was losing you, and I realized how much you matter." Now, be careful here. This is not your cue to instantly jump back in and resume the old pattern. It's an invitation to observe. Is this change consistent or only temporary? Does their behavior align with their words? Do you feel more valued over time, or does it slide back? If the improvement is real, great. You can rebuild on new terms. I am not here to be half seen or half chosen. If you want me in your life, it has to be mutual. You're not punishing them. You're protecting what you've learned. Outcome two. They fade away. The second outcome is harder to swallow, but even more important. They don't step up. They don't ask where you've been. They don't match your effort. They quietly accept the distance and let you go. At first, that can feel like a punch to the chest. So that's it. They really didn't care. But over time, this painful truth becomes a strange kind of peace. You finally see that you were, in fact, carrying the relationship almost alone. You see that your presence was more of a convenience than a treasure. And now, instead of living in the torture of, "What if I just tried harder?" you can say, "I tried, I gave, I stepped back, and they still didn't come closer." That clarity gives you permission to let go, not as a failure, but as an act of self-respect. Because whether they step up or fade away, you win. Either you get a more balanced, respectful connection, or you get your time, energy, and future back to invest in someone who truly sees you. Either way, you're no longer stuck in the limbo of begging for value. You've moved into a life where you are the one who decides what is acceptable. Let's end with something you might need to hear clearly. When someone stops valuing you, it is not automatic proof that you are worthless. It is proof that they, with their wounds, their priorities, their limitations, are no longer capable of meeting you where you are. It hurts. It's confusing. It triggers every old story in your mind about not being enough. But here's the reframe. This is not just a story about someone drifting away. It's also a story about you waking up. You noticing, "I don't feel good here anymore." You daring to ask, "What if I stop trying to make them see my value and I start living like I already have it?" You choosing, "I will step back. I will invest in myself. I will let people show me who they are when I'm not carrying the entire connection." So if there's someone in your life right now who used to value you and no longer seems to, remember this. You don't need to chase them. You don't need to fight for attention. You don't need to twist yourself into a version of you that they might like more. You are allowed to step back, to take your energy with you, to grow, to heal, to attract people who don't need to lose you to understand your worth. Because in the end, people will always value what they fear losing. But you must be the first person who fears losing yourself. And the moment you decide, "I refuse to abandon myself to stay close to someone who has already let go of me," is the moment your self-esteem stops depending on them and starts living in you.